Riley Morgan never imagined her dream job would feel like stepping into a war zone. But working as an executive assistant to Elena Sterling, CEO of Sterling & Company, the city's top marketing firm, was nothing short of a battlefield. Elena was a force of nature. Sharp. Calculated. A woman whose mere presence commanded attention. Her reputation for perfection was legendary. People feared her. Respected her. But no one dared get close. And Riley? She was about to find out why. The first time Riley met Elena, she felt the temperature drop. "Your resume is impressive," Elena said, scanning the document like she was searching for flaws. "But I don't care about paper qualifications. I care about results." Her tone was cool, emotionless. Riley straightened in her seat. "I understand." Elena's piercing gaze met hers. "Do you?" Riley had no idea what she had signed up for. The days blurred into late nights, endless emails, and impossible expectations. Elena never praised. Never smiled. She simply expected perfection. Yet, something about the challenge made Riley push harder. One evening, after hours of revisions on a crucial presentation, Riley found herself standing in Elena's office, refusing to back down. "This is what you wanted, isn't it?" Riley said, placing the final draft on Elena's desk. Elena's lips curled slightly, almost amused. "You surprise me, Ms. Morgan." For the first time, Riley thought she saw a crack in Elena's armor. Riley started noticing the way Elena would pause when their fingers brushed. The way her gaze lingered just a second too long. Then came the gala. Dressed in an elegant black gown, Elena moved through the crowd with effortless grace. But when her eyes found Riley standing across the room in a simple yet stunning red dress, something flickered in her expression. Riley's heart pounded. She was imagining things. Wasn't she? Late one night, a heated discussion in Elena's office turned into something else entirely. "You're impossible," Riley snapped, frustrated beyond reason. Elena stood, stepping dangerously close. "And yet, you're still here." Silence stretched between them. The air felt thick, charged. For a brief, reckless moment, Riley thought she saw something in Elena's gaze, something dangerous. Then Elena turned away. "Go home, Ms. Morgan." It wasn't a dismissal. It was a warning. But Riley wasn't sure she could listen. The next few days, Elena was different. Colder, more distant than before. Riley felt the loss of something she could never name. She should have let it go. But one night, as she gathered her things, she saw Elena standing by her office window, looking tired. Almost vulnerable. Before she could stop herself, Riley spoke. "Elena." Elena turned, her expression unreadable. "Go home, Riley." Her voice was soft. Too soft. And Riley knew this was no longer just about work. For the next week, Riley felt the shift between them like a fault line ready to crack. Elena had always been distant, but now, it was unbearable. She barely looked at Riley, their conversations were clipped, and the warmth, the dangerous warmth Riley had felt growing, was gone. It hurt more than it should have. One evening, after an exhausting day, Riley found herself lingering by Elena's office door. "Is this how it's going to be now?" she asked. Elena didn't look up from her work. "I don't know what you mean." Riley scoffed, stepping closer. "You're pushing me away. And for what?" "Because you're scared." Elena's eyes finally met hers, sharp and defensive. "I'm not scared. I'm being smart." "Smart?" Riley repeated. "So, whatever this is, whatever we were starting to become, you're just going to bury it." Elena stood, her expression unreadable. "Go home, Riley." Riley exhaled, shaking her head. "You know what? Maybe I should. Maybe I should walk away, for real this time." She turned, heart pounding, but before she could take another step, Elena's voice stopped her. "Don't." It was barely a whisper. But it was enough. Riley turned back. "Then say it." Elena hesitated. And that hesitation? It was everything. But instead of answering, she sat back down and looked away. Riley swallowed the lump in her throat. "Good night, Ms. Sterling." And this time, she meant it. The next morning, chaos erupted. An anonymous email had been leaked to the press, an email implying that Elena had been inappropriate with an employee. Riley's blood ran cold as she read the article. It didn't name names, but anyone inside the company would know. By noon, HR was involved. By evening, the board was demanding a response. Elena was silent through it all. But when Riley barged into her office, furious and scared, she found Elena sitting at her desk, unreadable as ever. "Who did this?" Riley demanded. "Who sent that email?" Elena leaned back in her chair. "Does it matter?" "Of course, it matters." Riley slammed the door shut. "They're coming after you." Elena exhaled. "They're coming after both of us." The weight of her words settled between them. Riley clenched her jaw. "Then fight it. Say something." Elena finally stood, closing the space between them. "And what do you want me to say, Riley?" Her voice was quiet, intense. "That I made a mistake. That I should have never let myself." She stopped herself, exhaling sharply. Riley's heart was racing. "Let yourself what?" Elena didn't answer. But this time, Riley didn't need her to. Slowly, carefully, she reached out, taking Elena's hand in hers. "We can fight this. Together." Elena's fingers curled around Riley's just slightly, just enough to make Riley's breath catch. But then, just as quickly, Elena pulled away. "I need to fix this," she said. "Alone." Riley shook her head. "No. You don't." But Elena had already turned back to her desk, putting the walls up again. "Go home, Riley," she murmured. And for the first time, Riley didn't know if she'd be coming back. Riley spent the next 48 hours drowning in frustration, anger, and something dangerously close to heartbreak. She should walk away. She should take the easy route, but she couldn't. Not when she saw Elena, exhausted and guarded, fending off reporters. Not when she overheard the board whispering about forcing her resignation. Not when she knew that Elena was doing all of this because she thought it was the only way to protect her. That night, Riley made a decision. She stormed into the office after hours, finding Elena alone, staring at the city skyline. "You can't fix this by pushing me away," Riley said. Elena didn't turn. "I already have." "No, you haven't," Riley insisted. "Because if you had, I wouldn't still be here." Elena finally turned, and for the first time, Riley saw it, fear. Not of the scandal. Not of losing her job. But of losing Riley. Riley took a step forward. "You said you needed to fix this. So fix it." "How?" Elena's voice was barely above a whisper. Riley exhaled. "Let yourself have this. Let yourself have me." For a long moment, Elena just stared at her. Then, slowly, hesitantly, she reached out. Their fingers brushed. Then intertwined. Elena let out a shaky breath. "If we do this, we do it together," Riley finished. A beat of silence. Then, finally, Elena nodded. "Okay." And for the first time, she let herself fall.